All right.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello, guys.
everybody.
Welcome to Dojocast episode. Wait, what episode are we on?
Episode
4.
4.
We're episode 4. Can you believe it? We're actually doing another episode 1 week later. That's a new record for us, I think.
I think it is.
It might be. Though it was a
Yeah.
little last minute considering that we decided to pop up shop right here in the middle of the restaurant.
Yeah, we're just chilling at a Denny's. I mean, wait, we're Stickies.
There you
We're at
go.
Stickies
Stickies.
because we were hungry, and we're just gonna chill here for the episode. I'm here with Stone again. He's gonna be
Hello.
a regular host. Everyone, welcome Stone, and then
Hello,
we also
hello.
got Atena here as well, the usual.
Hello.
And I am Hyun. I don't know why I'm on the table, but wait, who's that?
What?
Wait, who the hell is that?
Hey,
Can we-
sir, do you guys
Can I
have
help you?
Sir,
any
we're eating, please.
strawberry syrup?
Strawberry syrup?
I'm all out of strawberry syrup over here.
Who is that?
Wait.
It's me,
Wait.
Pluto. I'm just kidding.
Oh, hey!
I don't actually need
Oh
strawberry syrup.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my goodness.
Yeah, I
need
really
it?
had you
No
guys going
idea.
there for a second.
You scared me.
I'm a
I had
weirdo.
no idea we're gonna meet up here. Like, that's crazy.
Dude, this is my Denny's. I mean, my Stickies.
This is my stickies.
Never
That's
say
fine.
no.
Do we want to talk for an hour and a half?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Choice.
Hey, why don't you come on down here to our booth, man?
No, I'm good here.
Okay.
It's more
All right.
comfortable. It's more comfortable. Actually,
something tells me that your table is not very sanitary right now.
Yeah, it's kind of sticky over here. I'm gonna be honest.
I actually have a story about Denny's. Denny's actually has claimed one of my organs.
Huh?
What?
When I was, I think, 15, 100 years ago when I was 15, I was going to LA for a trip with my family, and the trip is like 8 hours long. And about 2 hours into the trip, we stopped at a Denny's, and we had the typical like Grand Slam typical breakfast, right? It's like super greasy. I ate it, and about an hour and a half later, when we're on the road again, still like 5 hours to go to LA, I start getting this like tremendous heartburn. It was really bad, and long story short, suffered the entire ride, and it was going to my grandmother's house. Right when I arrive, she's like arms out, wanting to hug me. I just slide her to the side, and I go and I get sick in her toilet. Denny's gave me appendicitis, and I had to get my appendix removed in Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. So Denny's Grand Slam claimed one of my organs, and I haven't been back since.
Holy.
Jesus.
Damn.
I weirdly enough, I also have a small Denny's story, which while we're here, might as well. So my old roommate, who is Larry Lur, who at the time was a top 10 Smash player in the world, he told me a story about Denny's, about how on his birthday every year, his family wasn't doing so hot financially, so they would just take him to Denny's for all of his birthdays and all of his Christmases. He didn't get any gifts. He would just go to Denny's. And that story made me so angry that I just refuse to go to Denny's now. Like I don't know. I have to live vicariously through Larry, and I just won't do it to him. I can't do it.
I think the rebranding to Stickies was smart then.
Now,
I think
yeah,
it was a big
Stickies I
play.
love. Stickies.
Stickies is fantastic. We hang out at Stickies.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. Where else would stick figures hang out other than Stickies?
All right, lost organs and birthday parties at Denny's / Stickies. The perfect segue into the very first topic today, which is the stick figures game. Let's go. Let's go.
I like that game.
That's a good game.
Would you tell us a lot about it?
Nah.
Nah.
Next topic.
Next
Next
topic.
topic. Woo, let's go.
Yeah.
Speed
Okay.
run
So. Yeah,
the
the
fastest
Figures
Dojo
is the game I'm working on. It's a platform fighter, based on old school stick fights and just featuring as many characters as I can get in it, from old school stick animations, whether that be RHGs or duelists. There's going to be some characters that are not from the dojo that are just iconic stick figures in general. And yeah, I've been working on that for a little over a year now. I think a year and a half, almost 2 actually, but there was a big gap there. But just been kind of working on that platform fighter. That's been my full-time job for a long time now, and we're getting closer and closer to being able to release that game.
It honestly looks so good.
Thank you.
Is it fair to say, because like I didn't see it until it was like well underway, like it was until it really was like a full-fledged enough that people were testing it, you know, like in the server and whatnot.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say, which was my first impression of it, it's basically like visually it is Stickfigurez but merged with like Smash?
Yeah,
like the same
so
feel of Smash.
So the platform fighter genre was invented by the original Super Smash Bros. And it's kind of branched out to be a bunch of different games now. But it used to just be Smash. Smash was the only game that was like that, where you're on a platform and you're trying to knock each other off, and your percents get higher, blah blah blah. But now that has evolved into just a genre, which is platform fighter, and so yeah, it's just a platform fighter. But yeah, Smash is definitely the platform fighter that I'm taking the most inspiration from in terms of like game feel, specifically Super Smash Bros. Melee, which was known to be like the fast one and the fun one, and the very competitive one, and just the one that kind of stands the test of time.
That's all I did as a kid back in high school. All I did was just play Smash and animate stick figures. That's the 2 things that I did, and those things are finally coming together when I'm a grown adult.
I feel like
plus age.
I feel like the Venn diagram, and this is why it's so genius. I feel like the Venn diagram for Smash players and stick figure animation enjoyers is just simply a circle.
Yeah,
that's why I think it's such a perfect combo of things to be put together. Because like I think if you played Smash, you're gonna see this and immediately be like, I'm 1,000% in, even if they have no idea about like RHG or Dojo Duelist. It doesn't matter. Like the characters, they hold themselves up. They're visually appealing, even if the person coming into it has no idea where they could be inspired from or stem from.
Yeah, so I've been in the stick figure community for almost 20 years.
You don't want to do that math. It's not fun. It's not that fun to do.
Sorry, something in my throat there. Anyway, I was like 14-ish, 13, 14 when I first started actually finding out that there was a community and watching animations and stuff, and that was my first thought, because Smash was my favorite game as a child. I played basically nothing else. It was Smash and Pokemon. Those were the only 2 video games I even remotely cared about. And I just remember finding like some stick fights and being like, oh, I want this, but in Smash. And then you learn about RHG and the Gladiator system and all that stuff, and it just like it kept growing in my head. And I've literally had this game in my head for almost 2 decades, and I am not alone in that, obviously, because when I announced this, everyone who's found it so far has like lost their minds over it and was like, I've wanted this game since I found out about the stick figure community, which I feel like the crossover between like you said, the crossover between stick figures and Smash is just overwhelmingly abundant. I don't know what it is about the 2 things, but I feel like they both just hit the same part of your brain. Like they give you the serotonin in the same way, and there's nothing else like those 2 things. Like Smash is or platform fighters now, it's like a very niche fix that you get from playing those games and doing something really cool in those games. And it's the same thing when you're watching a stick fight and some like cool ass combo happens, and you're just like, it just feels the same both times.
I totally agree. So for the team behind the game, how many people are involved in its creation right now, and who does what? Is it a myriad of people? Is it like, just you and a coder, a couple other people?
Yeah, so originally it was just me. We were actually still working on doors when I found the engine that I was going to use for stick figures. We were still working on the doors game, and I got slightly upset because it was like right after the doors Kickstarter, and I would have actually gone the opposite way. I would have made stick figures first. I would have like kickstarted stick figures because it has a more mass appeal than doors does, and then I would have funded doors through stick figures. And I was kind of upset that I was like technically making the way harder game first and the way more expensive game first.
Right. And the timing just worked out that way.
So I was just doing it in my free time at first, where Shuri was still working on like the engine for doors, and I didn't have a whole lot to do in the very beginning. So I was just kind of like messing around with the engine, seeing what I could do myself, learning a little bit of code because I had nobody. And then a lot of stuff with doors went south with like just a bunch of, I don't even want to get into it really.
Right.
And so from there, yeah, so many obstacles. You know, Doors curse lives on. Every iteration had a curse.
Every time.
So I pulled Shuri into Stickfigurez, and I was like, let's make this game first because we are not going to be able to finish Doors the way it is. So Shuri started making me some tools because he saw the way that I was working on Stickfigurez, and the engine is good, but it is not built for animators or for artists. It was very much an engine built for coders. And Shuri basically swooped in and saved my life and created the coolest plugins I've ever seen. He made the menus all work exactly the way I want. He made this character creator that basically allows me to do anything, but it's like perfectly catered to me. So I need to first and foremost just shout out Shuri, which is Shuriken. You know, that everybody knows Shuriken at this point. But he is a godsend and is the only reason that I'm even able to make this game. So Shuri is I would call the main coder of the game, even though he's not actively working on it right now. He's contributed so much to the point where like it wouldn't be possible without him. So it's me, Shuri's coding some stuff, and I think he's going to come back to finish up a couple things, but his job is pretty much done for the most part. And then Hyun has just been around kind of helping with like marketing, and he also animated Yo-Yo for the game. So Yo-Yo feels very authentic because it's animated by the guy who created him. Hexel helped animate some of Alpha's stuff, Turquoise's character Alpha. We kind of shared responsibilities in there, but I'd say he did probably 50 to 60% of Alpha. And then we just have, we have Power Meep, who has been helping a lot on the back end, doing server stuff.
Ooh.
And he also makes a bunch of bots that automates anything that's annoying, which is very nice of him. And then we have Plague, who just kind of recently joined, and he's just kind of been filling in some gaps. He knows a lot about Game Maker, and he knows a lot about Animate, and those are pretty much the only two things you need to know about. So he's just kind of filling in some voids. And then we also have this guy, David, who has been with me since before even Shuri made the plugin. David was kind of helping me make some really complicated attacks and stuff. So overall, I'd say the team is like 6 people total. For the most part, it's me. Like I'm the only one working on it every single day, like as a full-time job, and everyone else is just kind of like, I'll just pull them when I need them and be like, hey, help me do this, help me do this. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was a very long answer. I'm sorry, but it was important that I talk about them. So yeah,
it's perfect, dude. As someone who used to do like Flash game development a long time ago, seeing the thing that Shuri made for you is like crazy. It basically turned it into an animator's paradise for game development. And it's almost like a mini game that you're playing while you're developing, and you're able to just do your thing, which is kind of like animate, and then go straight into like, okay, what does it feel like? What does it look like?
Yeah.
And that instant response and ability to build just like that is crazy. Usually, it used to be just a total shot in the dark. Like you would make your stuff as an animator. You send it over to the coder, they implement it, they export an engine that's playable or not. Once they do get something that's playable, they send it over to you, and then you get to see it. And it's like there's so much time that has lapsed through there that you could have otherwise kept going or did so many more changes, and before you'd have to just simply wait it out or throw darts on the wall randomly, and hopefully it worked. So it's really, really incredible. I think it's going to be a major, major key to the success that the game has already had at this point, and the future success of the game for sure.
Yeah, we have a crazy combination of, first of all, our characters are stick figures, which I wouldn't say stick figures are easy to animate, but you know, you give me a stick figure over a full body character for a video game any day of the week, and like stick figure animators in general, I can hire people who can pump out a full character in like less than a week's time. Me and Hexel probably finished Alpha, like, and all the hours we put into it was probably less than a week of work.
Wow.
I totally believe it.
And yeah, it's unbelievable what plugin can do. I actually wish I should have thought about it beforehand. We should have planned it out. I wish I could like share my screen and just show you really quickly like how the hitbox system and stuff works, because it's absolutely absurd. But just know that I can draw hitboxes. I can like decide the frame data of the move in Adobe Animate. I basically just make the whole game in Adobe Animate, and then I drop it into Game Maker.
That is
That's
insane.
awesome.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's the most unbelievable. He told me that he could do it, and I didn't believe him because I should learn by now that if Shuri says he can do something, he can probably do it, and it's
Yeah.
probably not going to take him that long. But I would in other game engines too. Usually you finish your animation in a program and you can just like drag and drop it into the engine. Yeah, Game Maker is not like that, and the way like I was coding out the animation for each attack, and I was down to do this, and it was going to take me probably years and years of work, but I was like, this is my dream game, so like whatever, I'll do it. So you like go in the code and you're like on frame 6 switch to this animation, on frame 7 switch to this, and it was like abysmal. And Shuri was like, no, like let me create this thing, and I just straight up didn't believe him, and then he did it, and it works perfectly. It never breaks. I don't understand him.
Looking at it, it's still unbelievable. Like like when you showed me the demo of like, okay, this is I make. Well, just watching you were like making some changes, and then just straight to testing it in the actual game. I was like, that's crazy, dude. Like it's real time, and everything's malleable. You know, like you're saying with the hitbox and stuff. You're just like, okay, I'm drawing the hitbox here. You can make it exactly where you want it, and then boom, straight to testing it and testing it out. It's so crazy.
Yeah, and it really got put to the test when we did our first playtest of Stickfigurez, and people found bugs and people found things that were unbalanced. Like I was able to fix attacks that like were too strong or the hitbox was too big. I can do it in legitimately like 20 seconds. I can be like, okay, like I got it, don't worry, and I would just go in and make it smaller and change the damage and push the change, and it's like, okay, we're good now. The move's not broken anymore. And even when we went to Super Smash Con, Hyun and I went to Smash Con exactly a year ago, actually, and we showed off the game. Day one, a lot of people found some stuff they didn't like, or like we realized some things we needed to change, and we stayed up for like 6 hours and worked on it a bunch. And day two, people were blown away who had played it day one. They were like, you changed all of that in one night? Like it was more than you get from a studio who comes out with a platform fighter, and it's more changes than their patches were, and we did it in one night, and it's just it's unbelievable. Like it's gonna make patching the game so incredibly easy. It's gonna make adding characters so incredibly easy. It's just like infinitely scalable, because if the game is successful, I can just hire more animators and more people who understand the plugin, and like everything just comes out faster and faster and faster as soon as it starts snowballing, and it's all thanks to Shuri. So
yeah, one of my favorite things that Shuri does is he'll pull off some insane shit, like some crazy code that to anyone else no one would think could be done in code, and he'll knock it out in like a day or two, maybe a week. And then you'll ask how he did it, and then he'll say, it's like, oh, it's so easy, and use the most obscure terms. He thinks that it makes sense to everyone. It's kind of funny. Did he ever do that to you?
Oh yeah, I mean he did it for Doors. When we first talked about Doors game, not to get into it too far, go off on a tangent, but the first conversation we ever had about the Doors game, I was like, okay, Sherry, here's my dream idea, right? I want a level creator where you can literally do anything, and I want you to be able to walk seamlessly between everyone's rooms all the time. And that's like the dream. So let's scale that back until it's realistic. And he was like, no, I can do that. And I was like, no, you can't, bitch. Like, no, you can't. There's no way that you can do that. It's never been done. Why would you be able to do it? And dude just like sits down, and a couple months later, he's like, here you go. You can do it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
God, I love him.
And it's the same thing with the plugin he's made for Stickfigurez. Like every time I go to him and I'm like, I can't figure out how to do this thing. Could you add this in? He's like, oh, I already did. Like, it's right here. But yeah, he thought of everything. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I can't believe the way his brain works, man.
Yeah.
Now for like in the future, right? Is it already a thing that people will be able to make their own, like almost like a character generator, like mod or create characters themselves? So
not yet, but that is something that we are really taking seriously. And at first we thought it wasn't really going to be possible, but recently a lot of people have been able to get custom characters working in the engine that we're using, the base engine, which we did change a lot in order to get working with Shuri's plugin. It's basically a night and day, like not even the same engine anymore. But at the very foundational level, it still functions the same. So we're pretty confident that we'll be able to do custom content. And Also, I mean, if you just hand people a template Flash file and you're like, here's everything you need, by the way, like it's gonna
Right.
make custom characters so appealing that it's like almost it feels almost wrong to like keep it
yeah.
for myself at this point. Like it's too cool to not
That-
let everyone in on it at some point.
That is going to be, I think, similarly to Rivals of Aether. I think that's going to
Yeah.
be one of like the shining points of the whole game. But personally, I've already like in preparation, I've been drawing up like a few concept
No
Yeah,
way.
movesets
a lot
and
of people
shit.
have.
Character. It's so fun, and I
Yeah.
can't wait until I get my grubby little hands on that template.
Yeah, the template is like it's like the golden ticket right now.
Oh yeah.
I have many DMs from many animators being like, "Yo, give me that so I can add my character, and I'll just give you the file, and then you can put him in the game." And I'm like, "It's not quite that easy, but good to know that you're down for that."
Exactly.
That's
But
one of
yeah,
the,
that's my number one priority after launch. It's not going to be a launch feature because that would take us too long. But like as soon as it launches, and if it's successful enough to where I can continue having it just be my full-time job, that's like where all of my attention is going, is making custom content super easy and accessible and understandable. And you just, probably work for a week or two and your character's done and he's in the game. Bada baba booey.
Yeah, because I think the combination of that and the competitive nature of the game can give it real longevity.
Yeah.
Not just something like where it's like a flavor of the month thing where people are like, "Oh, this is cool," and we'll play it for a while, and
Right.
then it trickles down from there. Like, could easily be something that people either pursue playing it in a more competitive way, like Smash, slash an entirely different field of people generating content for it. Because it's just, it can be so infectious.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it could go on perpetually forever, in that field. So
That's
Yeah,
one
that's
of the
the hope.
reasons why Rivals of Aether was so popular. Is
Yep.
because they're customizer, right?
Yeah,
Because-
Rivals
Yeah.
of Aether had a very strong competitive base, but all platform fighters have the issue of it's really cool and then it drops off really fast
Yep.
because everyone just goes
Yeah.
back to Super Smash Brothers because why wouldn't you? More people are playing it always. You are never going to beat the numbers that Smash pulls ever.
Right.
You're never going to beat the history, and their IP is absurd. They have every character that you could think of probably in their roster at this point. So you're never going to beat it, and the goal is not to beat Smash. But Rivals of Aether had their competitive scene, which slowly dwindles or whatever. But they kept people around because there was the custom engine, and you could make custom characters and throw them on Steam Workshop, and other people could
So
download
big.
them. And to the point where a lot of the stick figure characters are in Rivals of Aether already.
Yeah.
People have made those
Oh, yeah.
characters. Yeah. Yo-Yo was an official. He wasn't in the official roster, but he was in the official roster of competitive custom characters.
Yeah, that was crazy when I first
Yeah,
figured
so
that out.
a lot of people keep asking me "Oh, you referenced the Rivals characters, right?" And I'm like, "No, dude, they referenced us. We've been here before Rivals." But
So funny, dude.
yeah, that's really what kept Rivals going for so long, and it was hard to make a character in Rivals. It was not it is not
Yeah.
a straightforward process, and if I can take that and basically give them an easier way to make a character and stuff, especially because Rivals is pushing Rivals 2 now, so they're kind of leaving Rivals of Aether the way it is. It's not getting updated anymore. Yeah, I'm hoping that the game has legs just through the more people that come into our community, find the game, like the game, want to make a character, and it just kind of, it flows itself down the river.
Very cool.
Awesome. Shall we move to Spotlight?
Yeah,
do it.
So
Before before, I just want to say the best way that you can support Stickfigurez right now, if you're interested in the game, is go to the Steam page and wishlist the game. Wishlists help a ton, way more than you would ever think. That's why every game
Ooh.
developer in the world asks to get wishlists, because the more you have, the more Steam realizes your game is popular and they push the game. So please go wishlist the game on Steam. And if you want to help a little extra, I have a Patreon page where you'll get access to the playtests. We have another one coming up in about 2 weeks. So you'll get to try the game if you're a
Ooh,
Patreon
yeah.
member. And I will link the Patreon in the
both
comments.
links are in the description right now.
Perfect.
Wish listing on Steam is free, you guys. So go ahead and click on that link and then wishlist the game on Steam. And then what it does is it pretty much notifies you whenever the game will be dropped.
Yep. All right, now we can move on. I did my plug.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, so we have an animation from a friend of mine, Loonsar. He like cranked
Loonsar.
out this animation in I think like a week to 2 weeks or something like that.
I have no idea what this animation is, but I see Xiao Xiao.
That's a
Oh,
good
yeah.
start. It's a strong start.
He took inspiration from Xiao Xiao 3 and thought he should remaster it. So I'm just gonna play it.
Yeah.
But he killed it on this.
Number 3 is a good
Don't
one.
mute. You have the mute icon.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
oh, the OG music.
Oh, I gotta turn that on.
Classic.
Oh my god, the door frame thing was so clean.
So good.
The movements are so well done.
Wait, he just used the.
The figures are
Oh,
so
I
well
love the
balanced.
staff here.
Ah,
I love the trails he does too. They're so unique.
It's the
the
OG
bending
trails.
tension. Yeah, the OG trails. You said like a week? You said like a week or 2 weeks he did this?
Yeah, like a week or two.
No way.
Oh my god, you
But
gotta
he
have the
was
slow-mo,
grinding
dude.
on this. Oh, just wait.
Oh,
Please
The
tell me he
kick,
does
the
the
slow-mo
3D at the
kick,
end. Yes.
double take, yeah. Yeah! Let's
Oh.
go! Let's go!
The same sound effects too. So
Oh,
good.
so well done, dude.
That's so
really well
nostalgic.
done.
Yeah, it's such a cool idea. Just taking one of the most, maybe the most iconic, like
Yeah.
maybe not to the new gen, but to all of us, like that's that's peak right
Oh,
there,
yeah,
and
that
just
is-
taking it and remastering it and basically doing the whole, like the shot for shot, the beats are the same, like the tempo is the same the whole way through. There's just no resizing. Like that's basically the only difference. And
Yep,
the
yep.
attacks are a little more modern.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just
Very
really like how
cool.
clean it is.
Dude, Loonsar is saying it took 8 days. You are a monster.
Yeah,
crazy.
that's freak status right there.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. No, I was in a lot of voice chats with him when he was working on this. It was like every single day while I was working, I'd be chilling in voice chat, and he'd be screen sharing his
Why?
progress, and every single day it would just be this. He was grinding so hard on this.
I'm hiring Loonsar, BRB.
What?
1 second.
BRB.
Yeah, and
Holy.
that last shot with the 3D, he had originally tried to recreate it on its own entirely. But I mean, so another friend of ours, Thom, pardon me, he had the file, and we tried to, or I'd say we, but it was really just Loonsar and Thom, but they tried to open the Swift file and like import it into Flash to see how he did this 3D background. It wasn't with any 3D software. It was all in Flash.
Oh my god.
And
Wow.
it's done with like we didn't even think it was tweened because the frames didn't look like they were tweened at all. It was all hand done. But then
Yeah, that's
Loonsar
actually
just
insane.
decided to take the original video and then recreate the background using it as direct reference and just actually using tweens.
There you go.
So
That
the
is
background
smart.
is like
makes
recreated with
sense.
heavy reference, but like that was a crazy find that the original animator didn't use any tweens. He didn't use 3D. It was all hand done, and there were like some small imperfections to prove it too. Like there were lines that were clipping through the floor and etc.
Yeah,
It
I
makes
wonder if
sense
that
because like
means-
he would have been using Flash MX, which
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
came
True.
before Flash 8, which is the more popularized one that everyone knows. And I think there was even before Flash MX, there was like Flash 2003 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so like some of the like tweening was kind of like one of the more breaking things that Macromedia had, but it's also one of the things that not a lot of people played with outside of like tweening, fading things in and out, like like for credits or whatnot. So it might not have been on the menu at the time to even like consider it. So it was a really bold choice.
Yo, hang on. He used tweens for the window scene, right? You know the one I'm talking about in Xiao Xiao,
Yes,
where he
but I
busts
think that
through
came
the
in a
window?
later episode, didn't it?
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
episode 8 or 9 or something. But
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he did there. If he didn't, that's actually legitimately bonkers. But
Very cool.
yeah,
Wow,
Loonstar
this
did a
is
great job.
crazy. Yeah, I see Loonstar in
Good job,
chat
man.
right now. Great job, man.
yeah, Lynn, sorry, you killed it. This is such a cool idea. I really like that you kept. I don't know. You didn't go insane with the choreography or anything. Like it all feels like. It's like if Xiao Xiao had just kept animating, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
He would get to this point. None of it feels like
Exactly.
extravagant. You know, you don't have any of the crazy freaking Sakuga zooms and a bunch of wind flying everywhere while
Exactly.
thousands of figures get blown up. Like it's really good choreography. It's the kind of animation I really like still.
It's very much honoring the original and not going too wild.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and move us over to the next topic. We're gonna go ahead and just let so what we're gonna do is and this is perfect for today's guest. What is differences and challenges between animating for a game versus a regular animation?
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. Like, challenge is not a word that I would use specifically because I feel more comfortable now than I probably ever have animating. But the biggest hurdle, especially with stick figure stuff, I guess, and the thing that took me a second to get used to is like, you know, obviously we're used to animating in 24 and 30 FPS, and the game ticks at 60 FPS no matter what. Like I can't,
That's right.
I can't change that it's 60 FPS. So, you know, you're like, okay, cool. I'll just double frame everything for like 30 FPS and I'll quad frame and blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm basically animating at 30 FPS, but you know, the game is running at 60. But then you get into the problems for a fighting game for frame data. And it's like, okay, well, this move has to come out on frame 7. If it wants to be a good move, it needs to come out like, let's say it's like a sweeping kick, a low sweeping kick. You usually want those to come out really fast. It's like, okay, well, I have 7 frames. Like that doesn't feel like a problem. And then you remember that you're in 60 frames per second. You're not in 20. And then all of a sudden you have no frames before this move comes out. Like it feels like
happens.
Yeah, and you know, with stick figures, I'm not going to animate a 60 FPS, you know, actual single frame the whole thing because it would look awful. So I think just finding like the sweet spot of like how many frames to add before a move happens and then how many frames to add after a move happens, and that's probably been the only real struggle part. But once I kind of got the hang of it and I started referencing some other, you know, fighting game moves and platform fighter moves, and I kind of understood the way they were doing it, I really feel like this fits me perfectly because I was always pretty handicapped by needing to continue motions past the point where I was like comfortable with them in animation, and I would usually cheat it by either like, you know, having the big head boingy style and just bouncing my character up and down when a thing was over because I didn't know how to get out of it. But with Smash specifically, or like platform fighters, there's a lot of things that you cancel, and you kind of like you're purposefully canceling your animations all the time to make your character move as fast as you possibly can, and it somehow just looks cool in like a video game form. Like in platform fighter form, stick figures always look cool, and it has lent itself to me so much because I can just get away with basically anything, and there's a lot of freedom in it, and I feel way more free working in the constraints of the video game than I did like with a perfectly blank canvas and me being able to animate anything, because I know that I can cheat the system like a lot, and I know where and how I can cheat it like very easily.
And when you're creating moves, you're also understanding that like either they're, like you said, they're going to be canceled, but you're constructing them to come back to like an idle position or what have you. So you already know. I know, like no matter, regardless of what attack you're doing or creating, you know, and you know where the ending is. It's where you started. So you can do whatever you want, and you know it's going to loop back to the very beginning and creating your sprites or your various different attacks. So it's all chopped up into a bunch of different little pieces, individual pieces, and then code slings it together into one character.
And there's this really cool, I'm not going to get too technical, this is the only really technical thing I'll say. There's this really cool code, like bit of code that's been helping me a lot. It's like a function in the game. It's called cancel any action check. And basically when I put cancel any action check in an attack, once it gets to that frame, if you input any move, the rest of the animation doesn't play anymore. It like switches to your next, you know, whatever your next state is. So if I have like a big hammer swing, right? Let's say I'm doing like a giant hammer, and I slam the hammer on the ground, like you're obviously going to have to make, a lot of frames at the end of that where the animation will look good with him returning to the idle state. But the cool thing is I can put cancel any action check at any point after that. And then if you don't do anything, you get the cool, like recoil animation and the hammer coming back to the right spot. But if you cancel the animation, it just moves on and it's fine. And either way, it looks really good. And the beautiful thing about the plugin that Shuri created is like if I need to nerf or buff the move, it's like, okay, I want the animation to last longer. I just move where cancel any action check is. And then that way it takes longer for you to be able to cancel the move. Or if I want to buff the move and make it faster, I just push it forward in the timeline. And so it like buffs and nerfs the moves without me having to touch the animation at all.
Which is great because, like, especially in a game like this, people are going to find the things that are most optimal.
Yeah.
And they'll scale the skill level based on those kinds of things, and that truly will end up defining the meta for different characters and how strong they are. And so it's really cool that you can make those changes on the fly, but it's still, in developing it, it is weird how it's kind of freeing in the sense that you're not fully free. Like the animation starts here and it's going to end here, and then there's going to be cancels in between. Having that tight little box, and when you're coming up with an idea for something, it is great that you're like, okay, I don't have to, after this kick, I don't have to figure out how to do another kick and a kick and a punch and a reaction, and an endless amount of options of what you're going to do after that. I'm just going to make the dopest kick.
Yep, exactly.
And that's it.
Like I do one pose when I'm like mapping out a character at first. I literally do like one pose that starts the attack, and one pose that ends the attack. And I could make a whole character like that and even play it like that. Hyun and I actually did that when I was first starting the game, and it was still cool. Like it felt fun, and there was no animation in the game
it's
at
crazy,
all.
It's crazy how important like poses are in video games. Because that's the thing. Like you don't even have to animate it. Like if the poses are really good and they flow into each other, then it just looks really good and it plays really good too. And that's what I noticed in just regular like stick figure animations as well. Like those really fast paced animations by like I don't know, JH and all those.
Exortine,
Like when I was trying to study those animations. They literally did not flow into each other at all. It was crazy.
No,
it was just poses on poses on poses. Yep. I was like, dude, that makes zero sense, and that's like the exact opposite of what I would do, right?
Yeah.
But then I realized, like, dude, freaking video games just do the same thing. They just animation cancel, and that's what they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
They are.
That's why stick figures are. That's why that's why going back to the first topic we did, where it just. Both things feel like the same serotonin boost. Like it feels like the same hit from both things, and it's because you're just able to cancel everything into everything else.
It looks good, man. It's crazy.
I will say this is kind of like even emphasizes that point further, that there's also some objectively good animation that looks awful in the game. Yeah. Like when something has too many frames, like you could animate the perfect, like let's say long drawn out hammer slam, right? It's got really good anticipation, has really heavy, attack, and then it has like recoil with it and everything. But then you put it in the game and you hit the button and your character slides around while he's doing that, and it's like, oh, that actually feels awful, looks awful. You know what I mean? The poses and the rate at which you get to the poses is so much more important than a lot of the details that you would otherwise pay attention to in a straightforward full animation.
Yeah, that was another thing that I really focused on too, is that I would in the beginning I was focusing too hard on the animation, and then I would put it in the game and it was too slow, and so it's like, okay, well, I need my character to react when I push the button, not 2 seconds after I push the button. Even though the animation looks perfect, like I am miserable pushing this button, and that's not the feeling that you want to get. The other thing I realized too is that you can cheat even more, because like when you're watching a stick fight, you're watching the stick fight. That's all you're doing. You're like critiquing the stick fight as you're watching it. But if you're playing a game, you do not care that your foot disappears for 2 frames or whatever. Like you need to kill the other person or they are going to kill you. You are not focused on the way your character looks at all. You're mostly looking at the opponent. So I don't know. There's just so many things that you can get away with, and I could talk about it forever, but it feels like I can cheat anything, and you could tell me to animate something and put it in the game, and I swear to you, in a day, I could find a way to make it look cool and like feel cool. And I think I don't know. I just feel more free now than I ever did animating before.
I think a good example of that also is like the I've seen like the different kinds of like movement like teleporting movement versus like a quick dash movement. Like the figures are able to do some
Sir.
really cool stuff for just movement alone. That's really stylistic. That isn't necessarily just your typical run or dash.
No.
Yeah, and I think it fits really, really well with the different characters and helps sell their theme really, really well also.
Yeah,
So-
I am uniquely qualified in that aspect because I don't care about anything in video games other than movement, and that is how I have been since the day I was born. Like I don't know why, but if it feels
It
good to
has to
move
feel
around,
good.
then yeah, and I've basically spent my whole life critiquing movement in video games, so now I'm being put to the test, and it's like, okay, do you do you actually know what you're talking about? And I think I do because everyone has been enjoying the movement a lot.
It's so funny because that's kind of what I used to do, is like how I would judge a game immediately when I was a kid picking up the controller or mouse, whatever it was, is can I double jump? If I'm in a game and it's just single jump, it feels 1000% worse than just having, like there's certain things like having a double jump feels so much more flexible. So having satisfying movement in a game is bar none one of the most important things.
Yeah.
You get that right, and if you're able to allow the player to feel like the game they are playing is more so an extension of themselves versus them combating the game system to play it, that is like the most key element, I would say. You know,
and I can't even begin to describe to you like the real, you know, like I said, I've wanted this game since I found the stick figure community, but the real moment that it happened was when I found Alpha. And I was watching Alpha stuff, and I was like, I wish so badly that in Smash I could fly across the screen with this character and like hit someone afterwards. Like it has been in my head for probably 15 years, and
such a visual character.
It was the first thing I coded in the game. I was like, like before I even got permission to use the character, I put him in the game, and I was like, I need to fly back and forth with this character, and it felt so good. And I was like, it's gonna be a good game. Like I can do this. If I can do this and it feels good, I can do anything.
Yeah.
And it feels so good to fly across the screen with Alpha.
Dude.
It's like it's a dream come true for me.
So there's different you're talking about the challenges. One of them was you were talking about how you're in a 60 FPS engine, so you're really just kind of adjusting, multiplying your frames just to fit it. Which I think like that definitely it can sometimes feel more difficult because it's like sometimes you want to double frame something and just double framing it, which in this case is probably quad framing it, right, to get the same effect.
There are so many. There's like 10 frames sometimes, bro. It's
it's like you can get a little more finite with it, because it's not just doubling anymore. You can add 10 frame or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's probably like there's probably some balancing to get it to feel correct versus something that, for me, like if I'm at 24 FPS, I'm pretty comfortable while animating. I kind of have a pretty good feel for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think there was something I had to animate, like it was like 60 or 120 FPS, and so my frames were ridiculous, right? And it was so hard for me to feel what it was going to be like when I was drawing or animating out, and then having my timeline being so stretched out. I'm like, I felt like I was losing the feel for the movement, even though I was executing it the same way. The frames being so far apart was just so strange. So like, once you get comfortable with that, I'm sure you can get really finite with getting the exact length for frames that you want to make them really feel really nice. So I mean that's I think is really respectable. I think some people are gonna, when they get the engine and get to play around with that, I think people are gonna really have a lot of fun with that because you can get really detailed with the timing of things.
Yeah, it gets even more frustrating too when you realize that we're using Adobe Animate, and the more you put into an Adobe Animate file, the less true the test is. So like, when I press enter and watch a move, and I'm like, oh, perfect, and then I put it in the game and it's like twice as fast, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like now I don't have a way to properly preview this attack before I put it in the game, and I'm just like guessing and checking a lot. But now I'm so used to it now that like if it looks perfect, I'm like, it needs to be slower. Like I know it needs to be slower, and I have like this internal timeline clock in my brain. It's like, okay, now it's perfect for the game.
Yeah, you start to shift. I think there's a shift that you otherwise never do, or rarely would do in a regular animation. You really have to kind of get that X factor. I don't know, like it's hard to describe because to me it's a feeling. It's a feeling within yourself while you're doing it. You have this like confidence that it's going to feel or look right, and you have to shift your your brain to get on that frame rate to make it still feel good, doing the same thing you would have been doing otherwise.
Yeah, actually, Hyun probably has something to say about this too, because when he was animating Yo-Yo for the game, we had to go back and forth and correct like a lot of stuff just because he had never animated for a video game before, and it was like a pretty decent learning curve, I think, to getting it right.
It was the back air, dude. It was the back air. Dude, I animated the coolest looking back air. He was doing like a flip, and then he was using the yo-yo like a slingshot, and then he shot the yo-yo, and it looked so good on paper, right? And then we see it in game, and it's just like it just looks ass.
Yeah, that's the other thing
so
is,
much.
outside of the game, it looked cool, but then you put it in the game, and your opponent can't tell what you're doing because you're just like freaking flipping around at a million miles an hour, and then all of a sudden a yo-yo hits you in the face, and it's like I didn't have any like readability or like feedback to know that was gonna happen to me. So you have to like slow things down. You can't actually go insane, psycho mode on your animation and have a bunch of stuff happen all at once. Like I need to know it's coming in order to sell it so that it's actually like fair and fun to fight against.
Alternatively, you could just animate everything already at 60 FPS.
True, I could just have every move be a psycho move, and nothing is broken if everything is psychotic. Yeah.
All right, should we move on to some art features?
Yeah.
Art.
All right.
Yo.
These are artworks from our community in our Discord channel. This one is by what is it?
S. Nample.
S. Nample, Gildedguy versus Oxob. Classic.
The pose is wild. I really like the lightning. Looks really good. The glow's really good on it.
Colors. The colors are good.
Yeah, the blurred is like a blurred foot too, like an action pose. Like he just set his foot down. Yeah, that is sick.
Yeah, what was that one song from the Gildedguy versus Such a good
acapella version. That one's sick.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, this is an actual painting. This one's real.
Oh my God.
real life painting.
Oh my god, that's
Wait,
Wait,
crazy.
that's a cool RHG character. Who's that?
That's
Darth
Morpheus.
Maul RHG. Dang, dude, it
Very
was so
cool.
good. They featured it in Star Wars. Can you believe that?
Yeah. It's actually a really classic piece here.
Dude, any kind of painting, you lose me. Like this is the most impressive thing in the world to me. I cannot.
It's crazy, and this is just non-digital. This is
That's a picture
canvas?
of a canvas. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
So
See
cool.
like a
I love
clamp up
the,
here. All that extra.
I love
paint.
seeing artwork that has like freaking like rough texture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Wonderful. We'll look at one more and then we'll get to our
Final
next topic.
Yeah. The other one. Next topic.
We got a depiction of Arzon. I think Arzon's hyper mode or whatever it's called. I don't.
Arzon.
Your final form.
It's final form.
That is sick. I like the blues. He's got like tornado body at the bottom, or is that just like a bunch of ribbons that are wrapping around him? I can't tell.
I
think
think
it's
that's
tornado body.
Yeah, I think it's like wind. Yeah, that's his whole thing.
Oh, tornado body would be so fun.
You know what's funny
I
about
don't know.
like art like this? This is in no way meant to be a diss, but have you ever realized that like these G-stick artists, all they would have to do is draw the head at a normal shape and they would be like the god artists of the universe.
Yep.
But instead they put a circle on it and it's like a G-stick instead. I think it's so sick. It's so funny. And like
very
that's not a
cool.
bad thing. I'm
Yeah, no, not
dissing
at
it,
all.
Like it's sick, but it's just so funny that they're one body part away from just being like being able to go to Anime
Exactly.
Expo and sell thousands of
Proper
dollars worth of
anatomy,
stuff. Yeah.
They pushed
they
the
literally
limit
have
so far on
everything
stick
else.
figure. They're there already. Yeah,
the like perspective on the arm is perfect. Like that is so hard to
it's
do.
so good.
And then their head is a circle. It's very funny. I love it.
It is awesome.
Yeah, the anatomy is like flawless. Even like the
Yeah.
the what is it? The scarf that's around
Yeah,
it looks so
yeah.
tattered and perfect. The ribbons around the
And,
body
like,
for
armpit
the
and the back
the
muscle. Like
wispy.
everything is great.
It's
It's
so
so
good.
good.
Yeah. Good job.
Right. It's incredible.
really great. So I thought that this would be really perfect to discuss specifically with you, Pluto. And I think it's one of the biggest questions that we've been asked at least
boy.
10,000 times over 20 years. which is how do you find and develop your own style? Because I like, for me personally, when I saw stick figures, I was like, oh my god, the rest of the world does not understand how Pluto this is. Like
Yeah.
how very from the UI top to bottom, this is so Pluto,
Yeah.
and it's so very special to me because I can see that and I know that. So like, what is your advice on how you would go to define and develop your own style?
I have a weird answer to that. Well, first of all, you just need more easing and anticipation.
That's
and then
key!
you'll find your
Ease
style.
in, ease out.
It's literally
More
just
easing.
copy, just ask your favorite animator what their brush size is,
Yep.
and you'll be the best animator. No,
Ease
okay,
in, ease
so
out.
yeah, okay, so I have two weird answers for this because when I started, I wanted to, animate like everyone else was animating for the most part and do like really cool combos and crazy stick fights and stuff. And I just like couldn't do it. I didn't have a background in even watching like a lot of movies at the time. I didn't have any reference points in my head. So like I had never seen like Kung Fu movies or anything. I just had no like visual library for fighting. And I could do other movements like fine when I was first learning. I feel like I progressed really quickly, but I very quickly went to like the big head style of stick figure where everything was very bouncy and not realistic at all in the slightest bit. And I did it as a crutch, not as a stylistic choice, but it turned into that where everyone was like, "Oh my God, Pluto! I love your big head animation style. It's so great. How do you even do that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm cheating. Like I don't know what I'm doing here. Like this is like secretly I hated it because it wasn't what I wanted to be able to do, and I felt really like gate kept from the stuff I actually liked. And so I would actually say, for animation and finding your style, and it works for art too. It's a boring answer, but like you really do just need to work on fundamentals first and. Like for stick figures, like work on just animating the most boring walk cycle and run cycle and punch and kick you possibly can, because once you get the fundamental base of your animation, the style that you want you'll find it just by continuing to animate, and you'll
it
kind of
happens to you.
Yeah,
it happens to you.
It does not happen all at once. It's a very slow trickle of like learning the way that your brain works and what your brain likes, and you have to just guess and check a bunch until you find it. Because I knew what I wanted my style to be, but I was like I said, I was crutching myself with it. And then when I moved to the dojo, I hadn't animated in a couple years, and so I started animating again. I went right back to that bouncy stuff, and I was like, hang on a second, like this is an opportunity. Like I haven't animated in a while. I'm rusty. Like I could just start over, like clean slate right here. And Jom obviously lived at the dojo as well at the time, which was very lucky because he's basically the style that I wanted. And so all I did was watch a bunch of Jom's animations, and then I asked him, and he was like, "Oh, I just referenced Kung Fu stuff." And for some reason, it had never clicked to me to reference stuff for stick figure animations before. Like
Me too, dude.
In 15 years of doing it, I just referenced other stick figure stuff, and I was like, "How are they doing this? It looks so good." And then he was like, "Yeah, just watch movies," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I like movies.
Movies are good.
I love movies. I watch movies all the time. Why am I not like thinking about real stuff when I'm animating stick figures? Why am I only thinking about stick figure stuff?" And as soon as that happened, I got good so fast. Like I can animate much faster than I used to. Even with the bouncy cheat style, I was pretty quick with that. But now I just find something that I want to be able to animate, and I reference it from real life, and I translate it into stick figure, and it's so much better that way. And it still turns out stylistic. It doesn't turn out like real life because it can't. We don't have fucking shoulders, So
no shoulders, no way.
It doesn't work like that. But yeah, I think if you want to find a style, you should just whatever you think is cool in real life, try to make it in a stick figure thing as bland as you possibly can, and I swear the style will come eventually. And you won't feel that crutch, because if I were to go back to the bouncy style now, I could do so much more with it now. It would actually be cooler now than when I started, because I know how to do it normally now. And so it's like I can break this and I know where to break it. And yeah, it's really all it is. It's like a style is just you breaking the rules in different ways. And you just got to learn the rules first.
Yeah, I think that's something I also struggled with a lot when I was starting to animate stick figures, is my style very closely, I mean poorly, but closely mimicked the whole Zeta brand style of outline and scarf and their very snappy movements. And that started to get on my nerves because I didn't want to just be another Zeta Brain ripoff or whatever.
Yeah.
But you just kind of accept that you're going to be influenced by whatever your favorite animations are, and that's going to reflect in your artwork. But over time, you're going to be able to change your style in your animation in very minor ways, but they pile up over time, and eventually it turns into your own unique style. I think Igor is a great example of that. When Igor was, he had a period of time where he was just another Hyun. Like his style was very, very similar to yours.
He got a lot of black for it too. I've heard.
I heard.
But he eventually found his own style, or really his own movement style. On a lot of trails. But like now you can look at Hyun's animations and Igor's animations, and you could tell them apart. You can tell who made what if you look closer.
Yeah, right. And I think like if you had taken a slightly different path and had been like, I want to animate like Hyun, but I'm gonna learn this stuff first, and then go the route of like, okay, now let's try to make it look like Hyun. It would actually look less like Hyun and more like his like style that he's at now. I guarantee you.
Interesting. You think so?
I do.
I always feel like your style is something that's in the middle. Like if I visualize it, to the left is something that you're trying to learn, like, or something you're trying to mimic. To the right is you challenging yourself with something that is new or different or difficult for you. And as you keep bouncing back and forth between those two things, the thing that is honed in the center is your you. Is between essentially what is comfortable and challenging. And in between, you end up becoming yourself as, what feels right with whatever it is that you're trying to execute. And it's something that, like I said before, it's something that happens to you. Because much like yourself, I found myself, revisiting animation and being like, okay, I don't want to end up in the same thing that, like you, people are like, I love this thing that you are able to do. I love that, this is very specifically your style. And if you're that animator, sometimes you're like, damn, well, like you're saying, it's like a crutch. Like it's this way because I found the perfect way to navigate around my weaknesses and utilize all of my strengths. And then that in turn is why it looks this way. And you as an animator might be in a situation where you love that about what you've been able to create, but at the same time you want to expand those borders and not just be stuck in that like ravine of specifically your finite style. So it's great to be visually different in the end, but it's also very, very rewarding to be able to expand and change your own style over time.
The only like real good thing that came out of me crutching myself that early with the bouncy style is Munch, because I was like deep in the hole, right? At that point, I wanted to make an RHG character and I couldn't animate normal characters. Like I didn't know how to animate a sword, I didn't know how to animate a gun, I didn't know how to animate a weapon. I was like, man, I just know how to animate this bouncing ball. And I was like, oh, that's it. I'll just make him a big bouncing ball. That's easy. And then I took away the body entirely, and Munch just became my character because it was the only thing I knew how to animate. And again, everyone was like, oh my God, so unique, so cool. And I was like, yeah, that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's why.
To be different and cool, but I do love Munch, so, it worked out.
Munch is great. I love Munch.
And then
I chose...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I chose Andre for the exact same reason, because I was like, I can't animate quick movements very well. I like slow, heavy attacks, essentially, that are very, like, clearly laid out, because that's what leaned into my strengths. And so I made a character that did exactly that one thing, so that way I always felt comfortable doing it. And everyone was like, oh, that's so great. And I'm like, I can't. If he has to do something quick, I can't do it. So that's, it ends up being a crutch, on the back end of that.
And now you're in the journey that I was in a couple years ago of like relearning other things and like trying to figure out a different way to do it.
Exactly. Try to take advantage of that, because it's like you have this window where your bad habits aren't necessarily taking hold of you too strong. So you have a small window of time to kind of like beat them before they just put a boot on your neck. So, yeah.
And I will say, too, like, if you're in a position like that as an animator where you feel like you're crutched and you're holding yourself back because of the style, just be bad for a little while. Just start over and just suck at animating. Like, you are it's going to look bad. I'm sorry. It's going to look bad. but you will be better faster in the end, and your curve overall, like after a year, you will be so much better than, you know, if you just stick to the same style and keep doing the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, and I think
Well
that goes. Yeah, that's perfectly said. Shall we do the our last? This was kind of like our backup topic, but I think this really segues really well into what we were just talking about because,
Sure.
you know, especially considering that you're working on this project for a very long time, and being able to be okay with your animations looking terrible while you're kind of like working into maybe, let's say, a larger project.
Yeah.
The final topic that we have today is how do you stay motivated in a project? You know, you have something that's longer. Pluto, what do you do, you know, to keep going, like with you working on stick figures now for, I think you said 2 years on and off at the very least, and now it's
Yeah.
something you're working on daily. How do you stay motivated in the same project?
So it's weird. I again have two answers because it's different for stick figures. But the way that I stayed motivated before was advice that you actually gave on Fluid Anims, like a long time ago, on like a YouTube video that you had,
No way.
you know,
Oh
like
my
15
God.
years ago or whatever. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about? Do you have an idea of
I
what
think
the advice is?
I think I might have some advice. Like, I mean, if I'm thinking about back then, I could have said something along the lines of like looking for fuel, you know, to energize yourself. Look for things that inspire you. Or have something to kind of bounce back and forth from, almost like a tennis match where you have something that's pushing it forward, pushing the animation forward, and then there's something that you might track back into the animation, like add blood effects or something that's kind of like turns your brain off, that it's easier to do, and you can kind of like come up ideas in the meantime. I don't know if that's close to at least a part of would have been back then, but
Nope.
well, what is it? What am I missing?
Okay, you don't remember your own advice. All right,
Oh
so
my
your
God,
advice,
I probably do. I mean,
your advice that you gave the community all that time ago to stay motivated in a project is to stop showing people the project.
oh yes, that's
Yes.
absolutely critical.
And I have carried that
Absolutely
with
critical.
me. I have carried that with me as a sword on my back ever since the day that you uttered it. Because
It's so
before
good.
that day, I would make 20 frames and post it on Fluid Anims and be like, "Look, guys, look at all this progress I made." Or like
Yes.
in the IRC chats or whatever, we would all share our animations and stuff, and everyone would just keep sharing like the daily update of their thing.
So
And-
incredibly important.
And okay, the biggest thing about it, and the reason it's bad for me specifically, is because, well, one, I have ADHD. So as soon as I'm satisfied with something, I do not care about it anymore. And showing it to people and having people be like, "Oh my God, that's so cool." I was like, "Oh, I got like the validation." You know, subconsciously, I was like, "Oh, I got the validation that I wanted. I can move on. Like now I don't care anymore." And you were doing like either a live stream or it was on a video, and you were like, "Stop showing people your projects because you get." You know, people get excited about it, and then you feel like you've accomplished the goal, and you move on. And it like changed me fundamentally as an artist for my whole life, basically, up until stick figures, because because with stick figures, it was almost the opposite. Where like in the beginning, I was like that, and I was like, I can't show it to anybody. I'm just gonna sit down. I'm gonna grind this out, and I did. The only people who knew about it were the people whose like characters were in the game. And it got to a point where like I was getting pretty burnt out, and it was right before SmashCon, and I was nervous to show it because I was like, oh God, I'm gonna show it to people. They're gonna say it's cool, or they're gonna hate it. But if they think it's cool, then I'm gonna feel satisfied. I'm gonna be done. And Hyun and I, we flew to Virginia. We do SmashCon. People finally get to play the game. I think it's in a terrible place. Like I am not happy about it at all. I'm really, really, really nervous to show people this game because there's no backgrounds, there's no effects, there's no like finished animations. Everything is a placeholder, and I'm just like, it's gonna suck. And everyone loved it. Like everyone absolutely loved it. And then I was still nervous because the whole weekend I was like, I'm gonna go home and never gonna work on this again because people gave me the satisfaction, right? Stone's words were like in the back of my head, and he was like, don't show it to anyone. And I was like, oh my God. But then I got home and everyone loved it and everyone wanted to play it again. And all I wanted to do was like prove that it could be even better than what it was there. And I realized for like video games, it's just so different. You kind of need the feedback of people like cheering you on because it's such a massive undertaking too. It is just so much work to make a video game, and if you think you know how much work it is and you've never made a game, it's more than double. It feels endless. People always say it's double. It is not double. It's like 20x. I swear to God. And so every time I get to give an update about the game and I get to show people a new thing and people like it, then I don't know, I just get more and more motivated, and it just keeps snowballing. And it happened with the playtest too, where people finally got to play online, and everyone was playing and laughing in voice chats and like having a good time and telling me what was broken. And I don't know, it finally all feels like it's paying off, because if you're doing an animation, it really doesn't feel good until it's done. And so you feel like shit while you're animating a lot of the time. And, oh my god, this sucks. Like, it still looks bad. Hope it looks good in the end. But like with a video game, I don't know, especially day to day even, I get little serotonin boosts of like, I just want to add this character's, smash attack today. And then I do, and it's like, oh, that felt good. But yeah, showing that game off, getting to show off little segments or a new stage or whatever, it feels so good, and it like keeps me motivated a lot. So if you're making a video game, share it often, and if you're working on an animation, share it never. That's
yeah. I think my example I would have given, or at least the one that I've given since then, is I like to think of it like a check that is slowly growing in value. The longer you work on your animation, your that check value, the dollar amount, is increasing parabolically the further you get to completing your animation. But if you show it to somebody, you cash the check immediately. And now, for the rest of that animation, it's not going to increase in value. You don't get to cash the check again. The check is already cashed. So if you've cashed it too early, you now have to live off $7.36 for the next 5 minutes of the animation that you're going to work on for 6 months. Yeah. And I found that time and time again, people would make such incredible things, and it would be like 30-ish% done, maybe like 40 or 50 hours of working on it, and they were really proud of it, and they're just on the edge of their seat really wanting to show people it. And then they would show the first like 10 or 15 people, and they get that serotonin response. And it was in that moment that they basically never touched it again. Yeah. Over and over again. So incredibly powerful tool. Very, very important. Absolutely.
And I've never really felt like, I don't know, maybe it's ADHD or whatever, but I always lose interest in projects. Big, small, whatever it is, art, music, everything I've ever done up to this point, I have put my soul into, and then at some point something happens and I wake up and I literally do not care about the thing anymore. Like it's like I never even had a thought of it in my mind, except this game. Like the day that I found Platform Fighter Engine and I realized it was like a possibility that I could finally make this game, I think I messaged Hyun that day and I was like, dude, I will finish this game. I don't know what else is gonna happen. I don't know what else we're gonna do, but I'm doing this. Like this is what I am doing for the rest of eternity until it's done. And I still feel that way. I had to take a giant break from the game because of some mental problems and things, but even throughout all of that, where like I basically mentally couldn't work on the game, I was just like eager to get back to the mental state where I could work on the game, which has never happened to me before. So that feels good.
I call it the gift and curse of clarity.
Yeah.
It's the gift and curse of clarity, because you have clarity on the thing that you want to do, which is powerful for a lot of people, but it's a curse because, like you said, you could just wake up and the thing you've worked on for like 2 months straight that maybe is close to being done, you now have zero interest whatsoever to even touch it ever again. Yeah. So you have complete clarity to know when you're all in on something or if it's done. And a lot of the times that doing that seems weird and pointless, but it leads you to where you need to go. Like you wouldn't be, if you didn't do everything that the way that you did it leading up to working on this thing that you're now working on, who's to say that it would have ever existed in the first place? So it's like the thing that you could have been working on taught you what you needed to know to get you to where you're at right now in doing this thing. And then now it's like, I'm here and it's exactly what I needed to do.
Dude, it felt like, I mean, as cheesy as it's going to sound, there's no other word for it. It truly felt like destiny. Like,
yeah,
I spent from age, 13 to 25, basically just in the stick figure community. I didn't care about anything else. I barely had a life outside of it, other than maybe my early 20s, which is kind of where I started to fall off, right? And then I spent probably 24 to 28 competing in Smash, and like I went to a tournament every day. I was like very unhealthily addicted to Smash. And I don't know, I commentated for Smash a bunch. I studied Smash all the time. And I was still like watching stick figure animations, but I wasn't animating and all. And I felt bad about it. I was like, man, why'd I quit animation? Like, this sucks. And then I quit Smash. And I was like, man, why did I do all that? Like, why did I play Smash for all those years and just waste my life, basically? And then I don't know, like I found that engine. It was literally a YouTube video. No one knew about the engine, by the way. It was like a YouTube video with like 80 views that just happened to show up.
Wow.
And I happened to click on it. And it happened to be the most perfect thing I've ever seen in my life. And like everything in my whole life just came together. And I was like, okay, this is it. Like I will work on this until it's done. And this is like the reason that everything else happened is so that I can make this thing.
Which is so cool and it's so weird,
Yeah.
Like it truly is like you have these building blocks, and in the moment you feel like you're building a skyscraper when in reality it was just one more block towards the thing that you don't know you're building towards. So I'm so happy for you because like when I see it and I see you're working on it and I see it's just so you like there's so many important things, so many important elements that led you to that moment, and I think you're here exactly when you need to be. You're at the point that you had to collect all of those building blocks first.
Yeah.
And I think it's already showcased in Stickfigurez in so many ways, and it's going to continue to be successful as it already is. That alpha release was amazing. There's still so many people making content and stuff that are showing up on Twitter, so I think it's just incredible.
Thank you.
Is there
Yeah,
another
there's a lot.
alpha release happening in the future? Just for
Sorry,
the
what?
people.
Wait,
Is there
sorry,
another alpha test going on in the future?
Yeah, there's an alpha play test August 19th, so in about 2 weeks. It was supposed to be sooner, but then I realized that Riot is releasing 2XKO this week as a beta, and I didn't want to compete with Daddy Riot, so I pushed it back because, I think my game's good, but everyone's going to play 2XKO this week. There is not a single soul who would pick Stickfigure. I wouldn't pick it. So,
Right.
So I pushed it back. So August 19th, we're going to do another playtest. If you want access to the playtest, you can go through the Patreon in order to get a Steam key. And you'll be able to play online. And we fixed all the big bugs and big crashes, so it should go a lot smoother than the first one.
Wonderful. I have to move us along because we're
Yep.
already at an hour and 12 minutes.
Oh
So
my goodness.
everyone, if you have any questions for any of us here, go ahead and leave them in chat, and Sarah will be providing them. In the meantime, we'll take a look at the last couple artworks that we have here.
Let's go. Ooh, nice colors. Wait, isn't this
This is
Yo.
PatataItsme.
That's not. Yeah. Potato, it's me. Got it. Patata, it's me. Patata, it's me. That is
Oh,
sick,
that's
though.
an eye. Okay.
I think it is. That composition is nuts.
That is.
I like that.
The colors are so clean.
Wow.
Patata, it's
Very
me.
It's
Where is?
wonderful.
Oh, dude. Okay, I got tripped up by this drawing for a second. I thought that the bottom was like where his body and legs were going, like he was standing up,
Yeah.
and just arching his back like crazy. But now I realize he is falling, and it's
Yeah,
even
it's like he
cooler.
stopped his fall or something with.
Yeah, it was already cool, and now it's cooler.
Way, yeah. Super
Very
cool. I love the
nice.
it's like pink Tron style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, last one.
Whoa.
That's cute.
Universe,
Cute.
planets rocking out.
Oh, that's cute.
It's
Very
Pluto.
cute.
No, I'm kidding.
I have a planet.
Oh my
I play the
God.
drums.
A little behind the scenes of the Dojo cast. Yesterday when we were discussing where we should be for this episode, Pluto made the recommendation of being on Pluto, and then he said Denny's, and I was gonna do Pluto, but Denny's just sounded so much funnier.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know why we're here at Denny's, but I thought we were picking space, and Hatena was like, "Yeah, okay, we'll do that." And like Hatena was like halfway done getting it ready, and I was like, "Or we could go to Denny's." And now
That's what
we're
we're
here.
doing. We're actually at Denny's on our way to Pluto real quick, but it just so
Or
happened that we didn't
We're
know.
at a Stickies on Pluto.
Exactly.
Alright.
Great, dude.
Hey, there's a time and a place where Denny's just hits different. You know what I'm saying?
I've never had
Usually
Denny's.
it's 2 a.m. somewhere.
2 a.m. Denny's trip. Oh my god.
I wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
Neither would
I don't have an appendix to give him, so I
I've been
can't
to
risk it.
IHOP. Like I've been to IHOP past 12, like midnight, but I've never
haven't
stepped
either.
foot near a Denny's parking lot.
Wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, you keep all your
Alright.
organs inside of your body, dude.
That place steals birthdays.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
remember your stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay,
Well,
so we got some donations this stream. A lot of
Let's
donations.
go.
Actually.
Oh,
Very, very nice.
Did.
We
Popping
got
off.
$2 from Patty Plays, and they ask, when are we getting Munch with the happy face? And a question mark.
Yeah, Munch feels like the very obvious inclusion, and I haven't been like, this isn't a leak or anything. I've been pretty open about. I mean, he's my RHG character that I made, and he's a big ball, and he's very fun to animate. Of course, he's going to be in the game eventually.
Let's go.
He is
He's gonna be
not
very
one of the
oddball
initial. He's not one of the initial characters. There's going to be 8 characters on launch. He is not one of the 8 characters on launch. But yes, eventually I will put Munch in the game. Like,
You heard
that's
it
not
here
a secret.
first, everyone.
You literally did not hear it first. I have said that multiple times. But,
You heard it here
The
first,
exclusive here at Dojo. Is he gonna be a heavy?
I haven't said anything about that, so I will not.
There we go.
I will not say anything about that.
Uh,
I mean, there's an archetype in fighting games, you know, that he fits very well, and he has a big mouth, and that's his only power. So, you know,
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Very nice. All right. Another $2.20 donation from. Oh my
Good
he's
Denny's.
in character. He's in character, dude. It's all right. He's method acting.
From Milky. Milky says, "Hi. Any plans for Stickman's or Hyun's dojo?"
I don't quite know what you're asking, but the Hyun's Dojo is a stage in the game, if that's what you're talking about.
Yes, we'll assume that was the question.
And yes,
Yes.
there will be many Stickmans. All
Yes,
the
very
Stickmans you can
good. Very
imagine.
good.
All right. Thank you for that donation, Milky. And we also got another $5 donations by Pat Plays. They asked if run and walk are different animations, a la Smash, how fun and swaggery are individual characters' slow walk animations with the
The
question
ones-
mark and a happy face.
Thank you for the question mark and the happy face. The ones that are in the game currently, the 4 characters that people know about, they're pretty tame. Kronos has some flair to him just because he's Kronos, and it's pretty easy to add some flash when you're wearing glasses, and you can just actually, like, Kronos pushes his glasses up as he runs every time. Like when he dashes, he like pushes his glasses up. It's very subtle, but it looks really cool.
That's cool. That's cool.
But there's one character in particular that is going to be extremely flashy, especially in their run and their walk cycle, and I'm really excited about them. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of personality in the run and walk cycles for other characters. It's just the ones that are in it right now are kind of basic.
Ooh,
So
looking
exciting.
forward to that. Yeah. Giving us a little tease, eh? And we got the last donation from Dude McNewt. Familiar name.
Quite familiar.
With a 474 donation, they asked, will there be a chair guy character, happy face / JK? Wondering if there will be possible special mechanic meter bar to some characters in the game. We will see.
Yeah, so he's first of all, Dude is by far the biggest fan of stick figures that there is. During the hiatus that I was on, and just before there was an alpha playtest to begin with, he made artwork every single day leading up to the release of the beta, like the
love that
beta
so
playtest
much.
of the game. Every day, even on days where I wasn't in the Discord, he was there, like making art and like basically keeping it alive while I was away being sad. So
I love
shout
that
outs to
so
Dude.
much.
And he created a chair guy character who he keeps asking to be put in the game. And I will, you know what, Dude? I will give you the answer that I give to every single person who asks me about every single character, which is I can neither confirm nor deny the chair character will be in the game. But the meter thing, there is already the impact meter, which is kind of the core mechanic of the game, which you can learn about more like in the Discord or just by playing the beta tests when they come out. But other characters, yeah, there will be specifically different types of mechanics for other characters that are kind of unique to them, and a couple characters will have their own meter that has nothing to do with the meter that already exists. So yes, there will be more complicated characters in the future.
Ooh.
Wonderful.
Why don't you pick a question, Hantana?
Yeah. Let's read the next one from Macron Lacrom. Asks, do you guys have real animation careers or are you indie? Hyun's Dojo looks like an animation guild.
I think a lot of us have turned it into our full-time jobs at some point in our lives, at least. I think all four of us actually have
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
full-time
Yeah.
job in the community at some point.
Mhm.
And then a lot of other stick figure animators go on to work in the anime industry, or there's people like the Path of Gildedguy, where that's their full-time job just based on their character and, making their own animations
Yeah.
and having a community support. I think there's like a lot of avenues to make it your career.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically in terms of Hyun's dojo, that's probably, if I were to guess, Hyun's full-time job. But as for the rest of
Um,
us,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a spectrum. I don't think it's like a one specific thing. I feel like there are times we do make it like more professional, or depending on who we're working for, right?
hmm
But I think for the majority, we are pretty indie, for sure.
yeah,
It's always like we're just animating, making collabs, doing cool stuff together, and then every once in a while there'd be some opportunities that kind of come to our laps, and then we just take those and take advantage of them. But yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
much how it goes.
All right, we have a question from Hamstring. They ask for Pluto. Did you actually ever make an RHG demo with Munch?
I did. It was on the wonderful site fluidanims.com, and I don't have it anymore. I know someone actually has it because someone scraped all the animations from like the Wayback Machine or whatever. So somebody has my Munch demo, but I don't remember who it is.
What's funny is I do
Oh.
for sure. There's only So I have all of the animations that were on Fluid Anims in a hard drive. But here's the only that might sound great, and it is, but there's one big issue. They are all the same file names that you submitted them to be when they're on the portal. So poop fart 496999.b.swf might be a very well-known, popular titled animation, but you have to watch every single one of them by hand to figure out which is which to rename them, and there's thousands. So
Wow.
yes, it's there, but if you didn't name it in a way that is Control F searchable, best of luck.
But I did have a demo for Munch, and people got very mad at me the day it came out because they told me he's not an RHG character because he's not a stick figure, and everyone was very upset.
What I think is weird about that is there's not more, because I would factor him as a beast, right?
Yeah,
like if
he's
I was
the creature
categorizing,
in the world,
and
yeah.
Munch is one of the very few, if not the only, RHG beast I could imagine in my mind that comes out, which is still so cool. Like the other one that's like an asterisk that is kind of close because they changed their movement based on that would be Tarantula, just because the arms end up being a lot of the mobility, but it's still a stick figure with those arms. But other than that, like I feel like Munch is like the only distinct beast RHG.
Yeah, I think that'll make him really cool in stick figures too. He'll just be very different from the rest of the cast.
Yeah, it's cool contrast.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Lava Lamb Chops asks, do you guys have any tips for time management? I feel like I'm not animating or drawing as much as I could, and I'm curious if you guys have strict daily schedules, and if so, how do you apply them?
Ooh, that's a really good one.
I'm the last person to ask for that question because I procrastinate all the time.
For me personally, I have struggled with that many times over the years because I've been in different formats of like something that requires deadline, or I'm on like salary, or so I've been put into different boxes, and I can tell you the most effective and most profitable productiveness wise is to get yourself in the right mind space and get the right feeling of inspiration within yourself before you sit down and do it. If you try to put yourself down for a blocked amount of time that is rigid and static and cannot be changed, I think that you're going to find that your progress in anything that you're working on is going to be halted in comparison to allowing yourself some kind of flexibility. If you find in one day that you can animate for 12 hours and you're just perpetually in flow state, sometimes that happens. Other times you might find you go to sit down to animate and you can't get 30 minutes of solid animation done because it's just not flowing. The creativity is not there. The inspiration is not there. I think if you have the opportunity to be flexible with yourself and with your schedule and whatever it is that you're doing, that is actually unironically the most optimal way to go about it versus being hardline and rigid. You know, then I say if you have the opportunity, because again, if you're working in like an animation studio or you're working for commission work or you're on salary, sometimes that puts you in a situation where you don't have the luxury to do so. But I think if you're in a vacuum looking for the most ideal situation, listening to yourself and understanding that feeling that you have within you when you're able to output something at a high quality, that I know you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever worked on something that is an art relation, you know there's a very stark difference between doing something because you have to do it and doing something because you want to do it. And the want to do it one looks better and you get more done. And so if you can kind of keep tugging on that cord when you have that feeling of want to within you, pull that as far as you can. Anytime that you have the opportunity to go longer during that period of time, keep going.
Nah, just draw faster.
Yeah, I found lately that spreadsheets really help me. Ironically, they don't sound too fun. Oh yeah, spreadsheets and lists. If you can create like a list of tasks, and I would say to even break it down as much as you reasonably can, so that way whenever you update it, you feel like you're making progress. Because if you're just working on the project by itself and you have nothing else to reference, then that project can feel like it just drags on for so long and like it's a never-ending project. But if you take a step back and take a look at everything, and you can break things down by segments and scenes or shots or however you feel like you want to break it down, and build a little spreadsheet or a list of all the things that you have to do, and then even have like calculate however many items are finished compared to how many there are overall to get like your total percentage. Give yourself a method of seeing how much progress you're frequently making. So it helps me at least.
I feel like there's a saying that's like anything that's worth doing is worth recording. Something along those lines. I think it helps. I think that helps your state of mind for progress.
Remy, sorry, not Remy. Remix Plays asks, is your game as a stick fighting platformer?
Yep, it's a platform fighter, which is like Super Smash Brothers or Multiverses or Rivals of Aether, but it's just featuring stick figure characters instead.
Wow.
Cool. All right, should we wrap it up soon? Maybe take one more question?
We'll do one more question. So from Haunted Open asks, has there ever been a character in the Dojo community you would find daunting to animate in a duel against? I guess like complex character designs and whatnot.
Dude, before we even answer the question, I have a duelist in my brain. Stone already knows about this. I created a duelist in my head like a week ago, and I can't get them out of my head. And it would be so difficult for anyone to ever fight me, but it would be so cool. It's just a guy with a big bird. It's got like a giant bird that he flies on.
No.
If you could picture Corviknight from Pokemon,
yeah, it's like Corviknight.
It's in line with Corviknight, and you'd be animating Corviknight basically.
What about like a stick figure with human fingers?
Yeah.
I just take pictures of my hand and use that.
I would say to me personally, there isn't one character, but anytime there's one big turnoff when it comes to animating other things, and that has to be when I see a layout of a character that it's when you look at the image of the character, it's not very clear what their ability or strength is. And then you see this just wall of text of like, okay, level 1 is this, level 2 is this, level 3 is this, and you have to do this, this, and this to get to these different levels. It's like the more complex I think a character is, the more restrictive it can be when it comes to being inspiring to animate it. Some of the most iconic stick figures that people have animated so many times have had a fundamentally simplistic idea that then when you animate that, they become complex. And the people who try to do it the other way around, it feels like they have a lot harder getting off the ground. You know, it's like a failure to start. It's too overwhelming and too much bogging you down and too much to consider that you're just like, ugh, I don't want to be anywhere near this thing. It's got too many moving parts before I've even begun. So that's like the gist of a character I try to stay away from, or that it rather isn't inspiring to interact with.
Yeah, it's funny how all the most popular characters are actually the most simplistic ones. Every single one. Like Alpha being the clear most popular character is
Sword.
Jet and Sword. And then the number 2 is probably Umbrella, and it's like an umbrella.
Yeah. And the rest of the complexity comes from the creativity of the animators interacting them with
Yeah.
other even simple characters, and they can do
Gilded-
so much.
Gildedguy's the same way. It's literally a knight with like a bendy sword, and everything else that happens is like based off of those two things, and like his pen, his like special pen too. But like it nothing. There are no rules when animating with Gildedguy. It's just the character and a sword, and like that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say
Simplicity
for
is
me
key.
personally, I don't have a specific one, but I wouldn't want to fight a character who's like, I don't know, there's a lot of power scaling within RHGs and duelists, especially now. Like, it feels like there's some characters who are still just dude with a hammer and dude with a sword, and then there's other characters who can freaking destroy planets. I don't want to fight the destroy planet characters because of how much, like, environment stuff I would have to do and, like, how much how much work I would have to do to make something feel powerful. Like, I just want to fight, I just want my guy with bird to fight, like, the big guy with hammer. And then
Exactly.
because then they would fight each other, and then the bird would fight at the same time. That's like the most complicated I would want to get.
I would say that the planetary guy is also usually very much so in line with this the guy who gives it a 27-page lore breakdown of how you're supposed to animate it. That first of all, his only weakness is he's indestructible. He can't be killed. Secondly, he's the most powerful thing to ever live. Let me show you exactly how we get there. Yeah.
We should truly have an episode where we go through like the old RHG.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Because oh my god, were they incredible! I could endless entertainment. Just really,
it really is.
I hate the quote unquote like indestructible character. Well, not indestructible, but like they can't die. So like they write it in a sense where like, oh yeah, you can't kill him, but like he just falls asleep for like a little while. That's you just don't kill him. Okay?
He fainted.
It's like a Pokemon. He fainted. He's got a knockout period.
Take him to the Pokemon Center. He's fine afterwards, bro.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, but,
Oh man.
all right,
I think that's it.
Yep, I think that's it for today's episode,
Wrap
dude.
it there.
Mr. Pluto, thank you so much for joining us here at Stickies, dude. I'm glad. I'm sorry your food's probably cold at this point. You know,
Hey, I haven't turned around this whole time. I'm actually pretty uncomfortable in this position.
I'm actually stuck like this. My hips, I think, are locked in this position. But
Yeah,
I don't know
we
what's
didn't
going on with our food.
Yeah, we didn't even have any syrup to begin with.
I know I was.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, 'cause
I
we
know.
don't. To answer your first question, we don't have any strawberry syrup over here.
I know I was the guest, but I feel like I talked a lot, so I apologize if
that's
I
perfect.
didn't get the
Perfect
limelight or
guest.
anything.
you're
but,
good, man. You're good.
thanks for having me on. Wishlist stick figures on Steam.
Yes.
And join the Patreon if you want to play the game in 2 weeks. Woo!
Woo! Let's go.
Let's go.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye
We'll be
bye.
back next week.
Bye.
And it's ended.
I hated that.